one thing that Chelsea dealt with so brilliantly against Spurs was long throws. Now, Chelsea have had issues with long throws. We've seen that this season, just causes carnage in the box. Now, what Chelsea did was left 3 players up by the halfway line, which then meant Spurs had to keep 3 players back. Is that now a way, has Maresca come up with a way to actually make it easier for the team so it's not so much carnage in the box when that happens?
That's what long throws do. Chaos and carnage are the words. We saw when Brentford done it against us, they get a goal. Brentford against Manchester United get a goal. Wolves midweek where that flick-ons. So what he does is it makes it take 3 players out, you're actually taking 6.
Yeah. And
then you see the handling from Sanchez. You're seeing that now there's space. There's not that chaos, and that is the way you do it. Just when you leave 3 up, really they should leave 4. Yeah. You shouldn't be left man for man because if you get a break, then you're talking a 4v3. Yeah. So in some ways you might even take 4 out of the box, but yes, another way of dealing with that chaos and the bodies in the box. Get them out.
Is that, credit to Maresca as well, because he's come up with what seems like, obviously we'll only know as time goes on and more long throws come into the box. We obviously play Arsenal in a couple of weeks, so I'm sure we'll see them come in there. But credit where credit's due, he seems to have come up with a solution, which is what we needed. Yeah,
it was massive, because we've struggled with it all season. You look back to the Lincoln game, you look back to the Brentford game. There's been multiple games where we've had this issue. And I didn't really trust the team aerially to deal with this as well. I don't see that kind of aerial dominance that we used to have with the Cahills, the Terrys, the Ivanoviches of this world. I think there's still, ways to go there. Still, obviously, in some elements, a young centre-back pairing at times with Hato, if it's Achampong back there as well. Yeah. But to take those players out, it just all opened up for Sanchez. And Sanchez was absolutely fantastic, because he really didn't have much to do in the game. He made that save from Kudus. Outside of that, he didn't have much. But in terms of the cross-collection, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, yeah.
He was. Is that the best game that Rob Sanchez has played? The most confident he's played all season? Because every single ball that came into the box, he went up there, he gathered, there was no spillage, he just looked like a man with full of confidence.
Handling was very impressive. We've seen Robert come out at times and doesn't quite gather it at first time, and overall his handling. Also, the ball at his feet, I thought it was outstanding. That long ball, he's very capable. One of the goals, might have been 2 against PSG. That long ball where he got reach, he really can deliver a long ball. There was just the one pass where he plays it in the Moises Caicedo 15 from the end, and it was under hit. Yeah. And he got 2 up his back. And Moises, as he does so well, managed to recover and deal with it. That was the only one. But overall, I would say that's probably the best we've seen from Robert Sanchez this season. He's put in some good form. There's nothing wrong with his shot stopping, by the way. No, he is excellent at that. Yeah. It's just sometimes his handling and sometimes ball from his feet. Other than that, very, very good.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I think for me, that number 1 keeper spot this season is pretty much settled and sorted now, I think. If he can keep that form going to the end of the season, then hopefully that's better integration for players like Penders that are out on loan. When you look at Sanchez, when he's playing like that, then you start to assess the situation and say, what attribute or skill set is he lacking? If he's a good shot stopper, he's a great cross collector, and he's good on the ball, and you're ticking 3 massive boxes. You just have to cut out those errors every now and then, because to go for majors, and especially we've seen it Mendy even in the Champions League, you've got to just be consistent throughout the whole campaign. Premier League even more. You can't have those errors in your game, and that's what he needs to eradicate. Once he's got rid of those errors, then we might be looking at a proper keeper for us.
How much has his distribution improved? Because like Jay says, there was a few times where he gets the ball, wants to attack quickly and plays some beautiful cross-field passes. And I feel like we haven't seen that as much from him, but it feels like now, maybe it's a confidence thing.
Yeah, it's also nice to see the variety, because I think in previous seasons, we've always gone short. And it's like, obviously we saw, Stamford Bridge at times the crowd were like, can you please just go long? But we don't want to go aimlessly long. Yeah. You want to go long with accuracy, you want to go long with some sort of purpose to it. And I think it also depends on the players that are up there. You need players that can challenge aerially and win those duels or hold up the ball. And I think in previous seasons, maybe we've lacked that as well. So, it takes 2 to make a pass at the end of the day, and who he's trying to play that to and who's receiving it needs to be fully capable of getting it at the same time. So I think, if we have those attributes, then we should be all right. Decision-making on selection of pass.
And you're right, we were a team that only played out from the back. Yeah. And that puts pressure on a goalkeeper, because you're asking the worst player with the ball at his feet to make some of the riskiest passes. Sometimes that long pass, mix it up, variety, you said the word there, that's the key word. Yeah. Have variety, don't be predictable, and I think that's when you start to see him flourish. He's now got 3 choices, maybe where he only had 1 or 2.
Yeah, and how much credit, again, does Maresca deserve? Because he stuck by him.
He's allowed him live, because it wasn't that long ago he says if he doesn't do what I want, play short, he's not going to be in the team. Newcastle away last season, the reason I felt that Jackson got sent off was that he was up against Sharda, he was up against Dan Burn, and we were only playing one way, we were going too long. And I think he got a bit frustrated in the end, and he's left his elbow in. But mix it up, variety. Don't be too predictable, and he's got all of that at the moment.
Yeah, I think it was a brilliant Robert Sanchez performance, and credit where credit's due, because I think he's, if he just feels he's oozing confidence at the moment, and it gives the back four confidence. And like you said earlier, Matisse, I don't really like XG, right? It's not that I don't get it. I'm just like expected goals. Like, what does that even mean? However, it's a pretty telling stat, I would say. Tottenham's 0.05 from this game is their lowest ever recorded in a Premier League game, and the 4th lowest of any Premier League side since Opta started recording XG. I suppose so. The question is this to do with Chelsea's defence, Jace? Is this to do with Spurs' attack? How did Chelsea restrict Spurs to so little chances at home?
I think it's a bit of both, in all honesty. I thought defensively we were excellent. We kept them at arm's length. Yeah. I thought they were terrible. And I think when you get that combination of one being excellent, the other one being poor, and there'll be fans are saying, well, that Chelsea was so good they kept Spurs. There's probably an element of both of those are true. But the fact that was 0.95, that tells you everything you need to know. So yeah, XG is just it's just a number that you can, or a metric that you can use and say, and have a look at it. We were nearly 3, right? And we only scored 1. We had big chances in that game. But I think, going back to your question, Liv, I thought we, as a unit, all over, every single one of those players was a minimum 8 out of 10. Yeah. Moises was 10, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But every single one of them, they'd done their job and they kept Spurs at arm's length. Spurs had absolutely nothing.
Well, obviously, we know the fullbacks, Reece James and Marc Cucurella are arguably, probably not arguably in our cases, but we think Marc Cucurella is the best left back in the league, and we think Reece James is the best right back in the league. And obviously it's difficult, isn't it, Matisse, when you constantly change centre-backs, and that is what Enzo Maresca's doing, I think largely perhaps due to Levi Colwill's injury. But the centre-back pairing of Trevor Chalobah and Wesley Fofana on Saturday was absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
no, it's fantastic. Fofana, I think he won every single aerial duel in that game, and his ability is there, and you can see it. That's the issue. Again, it's injuries, and Maresca's got to almost manage him and Lavia, whose ability isn't questionable either, to the standard that he's done with Reece James. And you can hope that these guys can stay consistently fit, because when you see Fofana put in a performance like that, where he's winning all of his aerial duels, he's quick. And and both of them were very good on the ball as well. I thought Chalobah played some really nice switches. There was one moment in the game where he carried the ball past a couple of Tottenham players and just went straight into midfield. They were having fun. They were enjoying themselves. And I think, I agree with Jace. I think Tottenham were awful. I think some of the passing from Pedro Porro on that right-hand side is just hopeless balls. At the end of the game, they were kind of just chucking it into our box and taking forever to try and progress play, and Sanchez just collecting everything. So there was a distinct lack of quality in their attack, but the way that we counter-pressed them, the energy that we put into that, it forced them into errors. And when you do that, and we treated it like a London derby, I felt like, I don't think it didn't feel like a London derby from their side. Usually there's a back and forth in terms of the aggression and the animosity between the teams. I feel like we just out-muscled them all over the pitch.
Can't believe Jace predicted Spurs to score.
No.
I understand it.
I think we all understand it, especially after Wolves, conceding like we did in that game. So to come out against a better side in a bigger game, and a game which Chelsea really needed to win, Jace, to put in a defensive performance like that, when that has been the biggest question mark over this team this season, was particularly impressive.
Yeah, and I'll go back to something I made a point earlier in the show. That is the level we've set ourselves. That is the standard. Are we a serious team? Are we a team that we're not going to... I still feel that we can get in that top 2, 3. I think we are capable of doing that. I think Arsenal are going to go and win it. But a team that wants to be up there every year, consistency. Arsenal, the most consistent side in the league right now. Why? Are they top? Because of that. We now need to... That's the performance. That's the level, right? Now we've got to strive for that every single week. And I haven't seen that this season, really.